not since the great hot sauce pitch of 2022. Have I been so aggressively out there?
Are you Mr. Sales Guy?
I'm Mr. Sales Guy. I'm going to close. I have reached out to...
Tommy the Closer, they call him.
Mm-hmm. Nobody could make a deal like him. I've reached out to a local printing shop to try to see if we can get some T-shirts made.
Oh, for the big event.
For the big event. And we'll see. I actually put the name of the big event in there, so I assume we'll get an FU. Or maybe somebody will be interesting. It's in Groverland, so there's a lot
Groverland was like 50-50.
Yeah, there's a lot of Republicans in Groverland, so there's a good chance it won't be an FU.
Small business owners, too, and that ups your chances a little, I would say.
Well, there's a trade aspect to it, Alice. Trade aspect.
As in no money involved.
Ideally, that is the cost, ideally. But you never know. I guarantee you, if they do a trade deal with us and we talk about them, how great they are,
They'll get business.
I think they would get business. As a matter of fact, why not? If somebody did us a solid, people would want to do them a solid. Well, and thus did the listeners a solid. You know, even though I'd keep all 60 shirts, obviously.
Yes, we'd like them all to be 3XL. Yes, that's correct.
What does that mean exactly? Depends, what brand, Alice. I squeeze into a 2X sometimes. We'll see. I swim in a 3X. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So we shall see. I'm just trying to see. I mean, it would be nice to have something to hand out and have fun. We're still looking. We're on the email chain. We're
on the cusp of settling on a location.
Cusp of settling, and I just don't like the idea of. I mean, and people are being so generous about covering some of the costs, and
not to mention time in terms of calling places and all this stuff.
Yeah, and Phil, this is what Phil either does or did for a living, I assume. These are project managers and people with careers, people who don't have 2 dead lawnmowers in their lawn, who have skills. And Phil, it's a pleasure, marvel to watch. But yeah, we'll get something done, Alice. I don't care if we have to be in Wakefield Common with coolers.
The nice thing, too, about having a Trump inauguration event is it really just separates the wheat from the chaff for you right there. Because if you say you're having a Trump inauguration watch party, a bunch of places, I won't name any names, but a bunch of places are like, no, absolutely not. So
yeah,
that immediately, it clears it right up. There's no misconceptions about what anybody is. Nobody has to work with anybody that they're uncomfortable with or afraid of or whatever. We don't make anybody feel scared. So, it makes it nice and clear right off the bat. We're not hiding anything.
And the funny thing is if you were to get our audience in your establishment, you would have people who are well-behaved, people who would buy multiple drinks, mostly, maybe lots of food, people who would actually pay their bills, no fistfights. It's like the most ideal, people who listen to the
a bunch of people are bringing their kids.
Right. This is a smart thing to do. But they don't know. I mean, a lot of these places, they don't know. They're scared. People just have no clue. Which reminds me, I want to get to. Did we play the audio yesterday? I don't know. The days are moving into each other now. Now Alice is a bigwig. I'm Mr. Mom now. Even though I do have a full-time job. And, by the way, Alice, any news to break on the Tom Shattuck front?
I made air quotes if you didn't see.
I have a big-time job. I am famous.
Big time is different from full time.
I have a full time and big time job. I have a radio gig.
Thomas Shattuck received his.
Well, hold on. I don't. Let's not say what I received.
Okay.
We will say I received my ratings, and they were very good. And it's nice. It's nice to see. So that's good. We like that. We like that. That doesn't mean I'm independently wealthy. But it means my ratings are good.
You've received some recognition, put it that way.
Yes, exactly. So what did your job say last year with that job? Congratulations
they said, congratulations, this is my previous job, not my current job, which I'm in a total honeymoon period with. Day one, I absolutely love them. I love everybody. Everything's great. But my previous job gave me one of those promotions where it's the type of promotion where they don't pay you any more money.
Yes.
You just have a lot more work to do, including a bunch of other people's jobs who've left the company and aren't being replaced. And they congratulated me on my expanded scope.
How nice is that? How wonderful is that? Oh, that is such a way of saying this company is effed, and you can just leave if you don't like it, but we're not doing anything. I want to get to, did we play this CBS chick yesterday on Face the Nation talking about, we really should have looked into Joe Biden's cognitive state. We may have played it. I don't know. We may have played it. Regardless.
I think we did play it yesterday.
But I want to hit it again because there's something that jumped out to me today, as every other podcast has played it since. Something about what she says when they say, is there anything we could have done better, essentially? This is the reporter, Ann Margaret or something, whatever her name is, and listen to what she says.
That would be, to me, Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline that became undeniable in the televised debate.
At the presidential debate with Donald Trump.
Unquestioned. And, it's starting to emerge now that his advisors kind of managed his limitations. It's been reported in the Wall Street Journal for 4 years, and yet he insisted that he could still run for president. We should have much more forcefully questioned whether he was fit for office for another 4 years, which could have led to a primary for the Democrats. It could have changed the scope of the entire election.
Now, why should she have asked many more questions about?
Because then they could have had a primary and the Democrats could have won.
I think the answer is because that's proper journalism. We would have vetted.
Yeah, we would have found out that they were faking that the president was actually.
But you're right. You just said it. She said it because had we just dug harder, then we could have had a primary and we could have beat Trump. I mean, the fact that she says it and has no idea that she's just said that. That's right. Not because it's your job and you should be reporting on the president.
Well, and okay, so to play devil's advocate and give her the benefit of the doubt for what she's saying here, I would say that, the best case way to interpret what she's saying is that it's certainly the lack of news coverage that probably, and the news story and the lie and the cover up that had the biggest impact on the course of the year in 2020.
Yes.
Was the press's utter lack of curiosity about Biden's mental state up until the debate, followed by the freak out, panic, quick replacement of Kamala Harris and the crashing and burning of her campaign. That is the most incredible sequence of events in modern American political history, which makes it so incredible then when, for example, PolitiFact, I forget if we talked about this or not, a few weeks ago, they made their PolitiFact 2024 lie of the year, the cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio thing. It is malpractice to say that the cats and dogs thing was the lie of the year, which, turned into its silly TikTok meme, when a bunch of the political class and reporters are still continuing to cover up the fact that the sitting president of the United States is not in his right mind and nobody's doing anything about it. In fact, they're hiding it from the American people, and it changed the course of American political history, the fact that they did this cover up, and it became a cover up that was impossible to sustain through the course of the year. I mean, this should be a 10 times as big as Watergate, 10 times as big as Woodrow Wilson not being competent scandal.
Well, yes, absolutely it should. There should be so many indictments and people. But you said something when you talked about the media's treatment of this, and you said it showcases the incredible lack of curiosity that they had. Hey, guys, can we do, guys, can you guys do something where you're not all screaming? It's going right through the floorboards onto the air, okay? So you said the incredible lack of curiosity, but the thing is, if that was it, then that would be acceptable. That's not the big problem. The big problem wasn't the incredible lack of curiosity. The big problem is that this administration, CBS, the same news network that this lady works at, was doing everything it could to be the Iron Dome defense of Joe Biden. So instead of showing incredible curiosity and going in and reporting, they went and spent time trying to reprogram you for believing what your own eyes were showing you. Here's the CBS package, which we played earlier this year.
You've probably heard of deep fakes, but just last week, as President Biden was at the G7 summit in Italy, cheap fake clips went viral on social media and were picked up by some news outlets. Take a look at this clip, for example. It shows Biden and other world leaders watching a skydiving demonstration before the president is seen walking away and looking in another direction. Outlets claimed that he was sort of just aimlessly wandering away. The clip amassed.
Outlets didn't claim he was wandering away. He was wandering away. That is what we saw. So he was wandering away. They had the live footage. We all saw it. And it's not that outlets claimed anything. He was wandering away. So now here's CBS. Instead of asking why he's wandering, saying, no, this is a cheap fake, which is a thing, by the way, we just made up 4 minutes ago.
Yeah.
This is what that is. No, he's not. No, he was wandering away. He kept wandering away. How, like, if you were in the employ of the administration, you couldn't do a better job of trying to dismantle, diffuse, this explosive piece of video. Just one of many that we all saw.
Millions of views within just a few hours, when actually if you widen out, you can see that he was talking to one of the members of the military that was participating in that demonstration.
They should be sued. They should all be sued. Trump should sue every one of these. Yes, he was talking to one of the members of the military who was in a demonstration. Unfortunately, that member was 150 feet away. And the one they were supposed to be talking to, who landed right at their feet, the rest of the European leaders were talking to. Biden wandered off. Mm-hmm. That's why it's a thing. Cheap fake. Can you freaking imagine?
I know. You may have heard of deep fakes. What you might not have heard of, because we just made it up just now, is cheap fakes.
Right. This is what Karine Jean-Pierre told us to call them. Can you imagine, by the way, like telling people? This is B-roll available on C-SPAN everywhere. You can get this stuff showing him wandering and telling you, no, it's not. It's not what we saw. What do you mean? It's not what you saw. He's right there. He's just talking to a soldier. Of course, he's talking to a soldier who's a football field away from everybody else. Well, hang on 1 second.
So, how prevalent are cheap fakes? And how big of a problem will they be in this election? Well, let's take a look with executive editor of CBS News Confirmed, Rona Tarrant, who joins us now from Studio 57 to explain. Hi, Rona. It's great to see you.
Hi.
Special web editor, digital effect expert, Rona Tarrant, who joins us from Studio 57, which is another way of saying 2 doors down. But no, it's all this credibility building. Studio 57, that's right.
So what are cheap fakes? Tell us.
Right.
So tell us how long cheap fakes have been around. I'm assuming they've been around since the beginning of the media, because anybody can take an image and manipulate it.
Nothing was manipulated.
Yeah.
At all. Other than you trying to manipulate us after we see this guy.
It's funny because what they mean by cheap fakes is a video that hasn't been edited, so that's like cheaper and easier to make than a video that has been edited. It's a cheap fake because you didn't do anything to it.
Right.
To make it look like it suggests something that didn't happen.
That's exactly it. It really is a case of old techniques meets new technology. So, as you said, cheap fake videos, and that's videos that are edited in a really simple way. Those have been around as long as political videos have existed. So there's a few ways, for example, that people might be familiar with. One is there might be a long video and you might take a very short clip and you take out key context. Mm-hmm. Another is maybe you slow something down and it makes it sound like someone is slurring their words. Or another is you might splice several pieces together and it makes it sound like someone said something that they didn't. What's different in this election and the last 2 elections, in the presidential elections, is number 1, everyone has access to mobile phones where they can edit. And number 2, most people have social media accounts where they can...
Once again,
that would be, to me, Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline that became undeniable in the televised debate.
At the presidential debate with Donald Trump.
Unquestioned. And, it's starting to emerge now that
I don't get it. Why aren't those more cheap fakes? The debate. I don't get. It's just another example of him doing something, meandering off, being weak, his eyes dilated, his looking zombified. These people are such frigging frauds.
Part of me wishes they had kept him in.
Sure. It's
Just for the sake of it, since he's wandering around telling aides that he thinks he would have won if he'd stayed in now. And, you know, people are going on the news. And I guess because it's a counterfactual, you, like, can't ever prove it, right?
But it's just, you're right. But it's just like this just shows you just the toxic cancer that was this administration.
There seems to be a sort of rash of videos that have been edited to make the president appear especially frail or mentally confused. I'm wondering if the White House is especially worried about the fact that this appears to be a pattern that we're seeing more often.
Yeah, and I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are
you all have called it that because we asked you to, and you're happy to comply.
In bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have
cancer. Administration is there's so many people should be indicted. It's incredible.
Repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation, and so we see this, and this is something coming from your part of the world, calling them cheap fakes and misinformation. And I'll quote the Washington Post, where they wrote about this, and they said how Republicans use misleading videos to attack Biden in a 24-hour period. And to their credit, we have a conservative Washington Examiner did call them out as well, calling out the New York Post. Ironically, several recent cheap fakes actually attacked the president.
Like this whole time she knows that the guy has dementia. They know that a few years ago he couldn't get off the plane to talk to the families of the Afghanistan people because he had to take a nap. They know his mind was shot. They all knew they were lying, and they put on this stern offensive against people who simply knew the truth. And if that's not the absolute story of the Biden administration and Democrats for the last 8-9 years, I don't know what is.
Well, the other part, and this is another big news story that was out today, the other big part of the Biden administration's legacy is going to be utter failure and incompetence, the inability to get any of the things done that he's promised.
Yep.
Right? And this is a narrative that's really coming out of, once again, out of the media and the left, because the election has allowed them all to, like, take a step back and evaluate what this is that they've all been pushing for the last 4 years. And Politico, unbelievably, had this piece today entitled, "What Has Biden Wrought?"
Jesus.
And I was seeing this shared by, like, Ezra Klein from Vox and stuff, people who really, like, these are big leftists who wanted Biden to enact this bold agenda and are upset at what a bad job he did. So he is not going to go down in history as a great president, no matter what they're telling you now and, like, the media push that they did trying to get this reelection to happen. This is, I mean, they've made it okay now. The National Archives released the photos of him and his shady business dealings with Hunter. They're now the stories are starting to come out. This is what Politico writes. Joe Biden spent the first half of his presidency enacting plans to steer at least $1.6 trillion to transform the economy and spur a clean energy revolution, only to watch those programs become afterthoughts in the 2024 election. Now the core of his domestic legacy stands unfinished, with hundreds of billions of dollars left to deploy and imperiled as Donald Trump prepares to take office. A wide-ranging examination of the Biden administration's spending and tax policies reveals signs that his efforts could leave a lasting mark, but also ways in which his agenda has yet to take hold. After unleashing money for batteries, solar cells, computer chips, and clean water, luring foreign-owned factories to U.S. soil, and turning some red state Republicans into supporters of green energy projects. So they go on about this, how he had this big, bold agenda, and they enacted all this, and they put all this funding forward. But unfortunately, the part where you have to actually use the money to make the things go has failed to happen, which they describe as much of it remains a work in progress. Solar installations have surged to record levels, but the country is not adding enough zero-carbon electricity to meet Biden's targets. A $42 billion expansion of broadband internet service has yet to connect a single household. Bureaucratic haggling.
That's fantastic.
$42 billion broadband internet. Not one house has broadband
not
internet.
Not a single household is not a lot of households.
No. And what's more, broadband internet is going to be obsolete in a few years because of Starlink and these other products that for a lot of people is going to be as good as they need for their household needs and much, much, much easier to get access to than, Fios cables laid in the ground going to your house. Bureaucratic haggling, equipment shortages, and logistical challenges mean a $7.5 billion effort to install electric vehicle chargers from coast to coast has so far yielded. So do you want to guess the number? It's more than the 7 it was like a year or two ago. So they've really picked up steam now.
Number of charging stations?
Yeah.
We're actually up to
$7.5 billion.
Okay. They have built, we will say, 1,100.
47 charging stations.
47,000.
47 charging stations.
47 stations.
47 charging stations. $7.5 billion. Republicans say they intend to scrutinize the spending. So Republicans are going to start to claw this back, basically. About half of the spending hasn't actually been spent yet doing anything because they're terrible at doing stuff. And of course, do you want to guess a big reason why it's been harder to get things done than they thought it would be?
I'm going to guess it's Republican obstructionism. Is this what they're going to say it is or what it is?
What are they going to say it is?
They're going to say it's Republican obstructionism, Congress slow-walking funding. But I would say probably, in truth, it's probably their own regulations.
It's, believe it or not, it's because his goals were so ambitious and focused on, quote, righting old wrongs that, it takes extra time to fix decades of inequity.
Oh, I see. Oh, wow, that's fantastic.
Biden's programs were meant to right old wrongs. He instituted a government-wide effort to ensure that communities that had borne the historic legacy of pollution would benefit from the transition to cleaner energy sources.
To right old wrongs. What a half-assed coward's
Tony
excuse.
Reams, University of Michigan professor who helped steer the Energy Department's environmental justice work, acknowledges that many voters didn't see the benefits of Biden's work before the election. Fixing decades of inequity was never going to be quick, Reams added, saying, I probably was a little naive about the time it takes to make transformational change.
Sir, there's no way to charge my Tesla within 700 miles. We're righting old wrongs. Okay.
The funny thing is, Tesla builds a lot of their own chargers, and they do an awesome job. Now, other places pay them money to use their chargers. So, you never needed the $7.5 billion.
I love that with the Democratic initiative as well. It's when you said all the charging stations, you meant not any charging stations.
So now all these people are like, oh my God, Biden's transformational agenda is at risk under Trump. Trump could claw this money back because they haven't used it. Maybe it's time to say this guy was a terrible freaking president and couldn't get anything done. He sucked at his job.
Yes, and I think that, the idea that half his cabinet was AWOL without ever bothering to tell him.
Maybe because nobody was steering the ship, period, the end. Maybe because there wasn't really a president for 4 years. Maybe you can pass the big transformational bill, but when you're dependent upon the executive branch to execute the laws and to actually put these things into effect, and you're expecting people like Pete Buttigieg to run the Department of Transportation and get these electric vehicle chargers out there who've never done one thing in the real world. He's never had to do a real thing. He's done McKinsey Consulting, which essentially, they have no accountability whatsoever.
Right.
They just come in and tell other places magically what to do. And then, and then he gets to be in government where there's never any accountability. He didn't even have to tell his boss he was leaving on paternity leave.
Right. And the other thing is that the job of Transportation Secretary is really a wonky job.
Yeah.
But Buttigieg is not a wonk. He's an activist. So he went immediately, was happy to do the stand-ups in front of places where the roads were racist and that stuff. But he could care less about, or where climate was hurting transportation. Like stuff about like trains when he was like, what happened to this guy? When he was calling the train this guy that had overturned. That's where he had no curiosity about the actual job at all. He was there to build Pete Buttigieg's brand.
Right.
And that's what most of these people do. Deb Haaland, a psychotic Department of Interior chick who ran the Boston Marathon so that she could take back lands or something, whatever. She's a psychotic. These are psychotic activists. And he filled the cabinet up with psychotic activists. They're not going to do day-to-day stuff. Look how they run cities. They don't care about anything but symbolic freaking equity horseshit.
Look at California and their stupid high-speed rail project that was like supposed to cost whatever it was supposed to cost, $30 billion and be ready by 2030. And instead they're like over $100 billion in, and no actual railroad has been built, and it'll be done by 2040 if it ever happens. Like, they can't do anything. They can't do anything.
No.
Even if, it's almost like that's why I think people like Iglesias and Ezra Klein and even like Nate Silver, they sometimes end up like coded a little bit right wing because they are wanting to get progressive things done. You know, they are wonky and they are trying to look at, you know, like get the stuff done and we're the good managers. They're trying to be like the Charlie Bakers of the left, right? Like, and they're just not good at it. Their party sucks at it. And it's so bad. Like, Biden is leaving this party in a shambles. And by extension, Obama's leaving it in a shambles because Biden's his guy, put in there by his people, propped up by his people, and this brand of politics where like these dudes fist bump about how smart they are, the like West Wing politics. Meanwhile, they're effing everything up from top to bottom and destroying like our credibility on the national stage, our economy, our infrastructure, trust in our government, the Supreme Court. It just goes on and on. They can't do anything right. They're like the gang that can't shoot straight, and they act like they're the smartest people in the room all the time. They've wrecked the brand of the Democratic Party so badly now at this point. You just have to wonder. I mean, I don't know when their party will be able to recover its brand.
I don't know. I
mean, nothing in politics is forever, you know, and Trump will probably have a bad midterm because usually the incumbent party has a bad midterm. But I'm just so excited. I feel like the left back in 2020, like I'm so excited for the adults to be back in charge.
Clean transportation can bring significant cost savings for the American people as well. Last month, we announced a $5 billion investment to build out a nationwide electric vehicle charging network so that people from rural to suburban to urban communities can all benefit from the gas savings of driving an EV.
And that was 3.5 years ago. And sorry, didn't happen, can't happen.
Of course, the more pain we are all experiencing from the high price of gas, the more benefit there is for those who can access electric vehicles.
There you go. No. It's not that we're killing you with these energy prices. Now you can benefit more getting an electric vehicle. Imagine the benefits.
Dave in the chat says, remember when they dropped Pete off with his bike so he could bike to work?
Yes.
That was so great. He's so great.
The whole thing is just like, it's just amazing. It's amazing. And the whole thing is just, it couldn't happen to a better bunch of people. And now you're seeing, you know, actually, I would say that it's connected now to, well, in Connecticut, like a new study has come out showing that, first of all the crime numbers across the country have been skewed and have been hidden and have been distorted. But in Connecticut, it came out now that they've had a record number of road fatalities.
Of course.
And of course, because they kept all the good drivers on the road, and they wouldn't. You were not allowed to. All the bad drivers. You're not allowed to pull them over or whatever because this psycho named Ken Barone decides all the rules for the police, and so nobody can do anything. And we're shocked now that everybody's driving the wrong way down highways. How could that be? I don't understand how that could be, and it's freaking amazing. It's like amazing.
But this is what happens when you put people in charge of stuff who are all ideas and ideals and don't have any experience actually making stuff happen. Did you see this news story about Mackenzie Scott?
No. How do I know? Is that an actress?
She's Jeff Bezos' ex.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, philanthropist. She always ends up on the list of the world's richest women listed as a philanthropist.
Yes.
Which is not her job.
Her job is divorcee.
Right. So, but anyway, she, the New York Post had this article about her today. Jeff Bezos' ex-wife Mackenzie Scott's massive charity donations don't provide long-term sustainability, says a report. Jeff Bezos' ex-wife Mackenzie Scott is one of the most generous philanthropists in the U.S., but her massive donations offer scant long-term support to charitable organizations. The billionaire, who pledged to donate half of her $35 billion wealth back in 2019, last year sent large unrestricted gifts to a number of big-name nonprofits. Though unusually large, experts say her donations aren't well executed. Her gifts are super generous, but unfortunately, they don't provide long-term sustainability. Gabrielle Fitzgerald, founder and CEO of Panorama Global, which has studied Scott's donations and their impact, told Fortune magazine. So it talks about that she's given all this money to bigger nonprofits, and that she puts this money in, but it's like not repeat donations, and like it doesn't do anything. You can't like solve world hunger with a one-time donation.
Right.
You can't do anything. Many philanthropists' goals do not align with the way they give gifts, an expert says. Though she regularly speaks with funders interested in changing their ways of gifting, she rarely sees changes. She doesn't really have a donation strategy. She publishes short essays on her gifts because people have asked her for more transparency. But it's just like Jeff Bezos, by just being greedy and making Amazon to make himself money, because that's what he does, because he's interested in making a really good product that people want to use and growing it and growing it and growing. He's done more to improve people's lives and change the world than she'll ever be able to do, giving away billions and billions of dollars. And it's like incredible when you think about it. But like people are so bad at this, and especially well-meaning stuff is so bad at this. And that's what all the politics of Democrats are, and all the politics of the cities. It's all unicorn wishes, fairy dust politics. Oh, the homeless people. Remember we talked was it a few weeks ago, about the girl with the PhD on like the psychology of smells and literature, and everybody was slamming her and yelling at her, Dr. Allie Lukes. She's kind of a pretty girl, and she seemed nice enough.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, somebody was complaining about like the smell of homeless people on public transportation, and she weighed in to let us know that the smell of homeless people on public transportation is harmless and that it's unkind to do anything about it. Which, of course, it's not kind to the homeless person to leave them using the public transportation as a toilet where they lie in their own feces in the middle of a train car that other people are trying to use. That's not kind to them.
No.
Who are you kidding? But that's all their policy. You know what the nice thing to do would be just to give everybody bazillions of dollars.
Well, right, but remember, it's like nobody's too good. And I repeat myself, but when we were doing Radio Rose for the Herald Radio in RKO, there's nobody too good that they didn't want a T-shirt or a piece of merch. And that's just like these are high-powered people, celebs, etc. They always loved it. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
What's even better than a nice piece of merch is a ribbon cutting where you're being feted for being a really good person. And the one-time donations will get you all sorts of ribbon cuttings.
Oh, yeah.
Photo ops, pictures of you being part of history now, and legacy media platforms. It's like, yeah, but they are such just dangerous people. But I am optimistic, Gallus. I'm optimistic. You know why I'm optimistic?
Why are you optimistic?
Listen to this chick. She's a gender study professor from the University of Iowa.
It's disappointing. It's sad.
She teaches gender studies and social justice courses and says she's seen a spike in student interest.
We've seen our majors grow, and in fact, social justice was one of the fastest growing majors of the units that are being sort of restructured in the new school of social and cultural analysis. So it is, again, disappointing because it's clear that the students want these courses.
Murillo also says students who've gone through the programs are contributing to Iowa's workforce.
The students, I'm sure, want the courses because students are stupid. They don't know anything about the world, and they don't realize as well that a social justice degree can get you exactly zero employment, unless, of course, there's DEI installed in every institution.
Well, and I think they're also not stupid in the sense that they know that those classes are a lot easier than like introductory calculus.
Well, right. Oh, totally. So, but what makes me... Did you see the Andreessen thing?
I didn't get a chance to look at it.
This is great. I'm glad. This is Mark Andreessen. He was the old Netscape guy. And he's thrilled about Harmeet Dillon, who's going to be the Trump's DOJ appointee for civil rights. And listen to this. This is freaking, it makes me, like, it made my morning today.
Well, so if you wanted to pick like the most extreme possible like attorney to put in charge of the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department to sort of reverse DEI, it would be this lawyer named Harmeet Dillon, who's been a California lawyer who's been, the scourge of woke corporations for the last decade. As it happens, she has just been appointed to run the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department. And for the people who don't track this, the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department is the federal government, basically prosecutorial arm that basically enforces wokeness. They're the ones that basically have made sure for the last decade that all these companies have all these crazy policies under penalty of being investigated, subpoenaed, ultimately prosecuted. And by the way, there have been lots of prosecutions, lots of court cases. The most famous case that the current head of the Civil Rights Division brought was the case against SpaceX for not hiring enough refugees. Right. Notwithstanding that SpaceX is a military contractor and is not permitted to hire non-American citizens under a separate law. And so the person running that has been a true activist, as you'd expect from this last administration. And then Ms. Dillon, who, by the way, I don't know, but I've been following for years and is clearly brilliant. She's the exact opposite of that. And so every sort of signal is, I don't want to speak for this new administration, but every signal is being sent that they're going to basically do a 180 on all these things. And they are going to begin prosecuting companies for violations of civil rights laws in the form of reverse discrimination, which is to say discrimination against variously white people, Asians, Jews, and many other the unprotected classes, as they say. Right. And so signals are being sent by the appointments that there is going to be an assault that's going to be the reverse of the assault that companies have been under and universities have been under. And then, of course, the Supreme Court, ruled not that long ago that private universities are not allowed to do race-based admissions. And it's actually really funny because there's some question as to whether the demographic shift of admissions in the last year was starkly different than the year before as these institutions claim that they're coming into the compliance with the Supreme Court. There's some question as to whether discovery would show that they're actually in compliance or whether they're still playing games. So that's another thing we may find out here. And then there's a very open question as to basically whether essentially de facto that decision already has been made or will be made for private companies as well. And there's a lot of private companies that have been trying to figure out quietly how to kind of dismount from DEI for actually both reasons, for legal reasons and for cultural reasons. And now there's another sort of very interesting thing that's kicking in, which is there I think are a lot of large companies where basically they were already basically done with DEI to start. They were done with DEI for their own reasons, which is, it's backfired in many spectacular ways. But now they have any large company that wants to dismount from it.
You think Disney, obviously, think Bud Light.
The best reason in the world.
Well, and Disney, for example, I mean, in ways that are cultural as well as purely hiring decisions that can be legally actionable as well.
Yes.
So Disney, for example, has pulled back. There's a kids show on Disney Plus called Win or Lose, I think. And it's about like a softball team, a co-ed softball team. And one of the characters on it is trans. So much to the chagrin of all the DEI insane queer people who worked on making the show, Disney has decided to remove from the storyline and rewrite this show that was completely ready for release, delay it, rewrite it, and make the character not be trans, including, by the way, a scene that was leaked to social media. Did you see any of this?
No.
Where the character is like looking and trying to decide what bathroom to go in, and then like looks in the bathroom mirror when she's in the girl's bathroom because it's a guy who thinks he's a girl or whatever, and his reflection transforms from like a little girl into like a scary huge man. Like disturbing weird stuff for a kids show, but that's all been removed now. Now they're all mad because the actress, who's trans, actress, whatever, now has to play someone she's not because she voiced a cis character as a trans actress, which you would think would be what they'd want anyway, right? But
it's just these trans kids. I don't know what to tell
so
you.
anyway, but Disney put out a statement that was like very innocuous. That was like, we found that many parents want to address these topics with their kids in their own way and time, and everyone's freaking out.
Let me finish this Andreessen thing.
World, which is we need to be compliant. We right,
it's
right,
illegal. Yeah,
because it's illegal. Because and by the way, let me just state for the record, like I think every major corporation in the country is just in flagrant violation of actual written civil rights law. Like you cannot have these hard quotas and basically all these racially and ethnically and religiously biased, hiring. It's just flat out illegal. And these companies basically all went so extreme on this that they ended up in what I think is clearly mass illegality. And so as Miss Dillon kind of kicks in her job, let's say she's not going to lack for a shortage of targets. And so if you don't want to be a target, it is a great kind of, get out of jail free card to just voluntarily shut all this stuff down. And my guess is starting pretty quickly here. I mean, we're already starting to see it, right? So Boeing and a bunch of other, companies have already put a bullet in their programs. And even the University of Michigan, which kind of went like completely bananas for this stuff, actually shut their whole thing down. So I think we're going to see my guess is we're going to see a run of companies that are going to take, quite dramatic action here.
And isn't that wonderful to hear?
It's great that everyone's backing off the insanity. Of course, we're in the place in the country that's going to be like the last to get the good news.
Yes.
We're going to be like the Texans in Juneteenth. They'll finally let us know that it's okay to stop the DEI programs out here in Massachusetts.
Does that mean that
we'll be freed?
Do we still have to do Juneteenth? And say, of course it was the day that they found it. What do you mean?
Hey, I get Juneteenth off.
Oh, you do?
I celebrate Juneteenth.
I think I will too. All right, Albie. Ready for what's brief? Levity? No, levity's
humor.
Humor. What's brief? Brevity.
Brevity, yeah.
It's the brevity chat. There's two messages here.
Okay.
What? Brev? Is it just brev?
Brief.
Brief? Oh, what?
Brief brevity.
Wow, who knew? Nobody knew. Nobody knew.
And leaf levity. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
That's
President. Would you like to comment on, Mr. President? Would you like to comment on the passing of President Carter?
Decency.
The president stated that President Carter was a great American and saw us through some troubling times. Yes, he did. I remember sitting in a car with my dad in gas lines.
I do too. Not with your dad.
Gas lines.
Yes.
Oh, electric vehicles would have saved you. No, they wouldn't have. Nope. The Saudis put the arm on us.
Mm-hmm.
And President Carter thought, well, you know what? Let's make peace between Egypt and the Israelis. Let's do that. That's what I'll do.
Yes.
And then ignore domestic policy. It was double-digit inflation. That's what gave us Ronald Reagan. Jimmy Carter gave us Ronald Reagan.
Exactly.
So the best thing you could say. 1:03.
Yeah, exactly. And then told everybody that, fine, since oil heat costs too much, then to bundle up in your house. And he was sick of hearing, I'm sorry, I don't buy this. Like, my dad was a Reagan guy. My mother was a Carter guy. They were on the verge of getting divorced, not surprisingly. But my mother loved Carter for the same reason why so many women voters love so many Democrats, because he seemed like a kind man. Mm-hmm. He was kind.
He's nice.
And nice. And, like, even as all this stuff showing him building houses after, like, he's not as much of a dirtbag of Joe Biden, but the guy was not good for this country. And real lives were affected because goodness knows what was going through his mind. And he was also a hater of Israel. And whatever. And also, by the way, he was alive in name only for the last freaking year, at least. Can we all say that it was, there's Jimmy Carter going to vote last month? It's like, yeah, he doesn't look so great to me. What are you doing?
I'm typing to the chat. Tommy New Hampshire's talking about how Costco hasn't gotten rid of their DEI policies. They're in a fight with their shareholders about it.
Oh, I let all these places crumble. Let them crumble. Oh.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
Actually, Steve from the Dominican Republic this week. I'm about 3.5 Johnny Walkers deep on the beach right now, and I just wanted you to know that there are women here who make J-Lo look like a pig. Okay? Women here that make Sydney Sweeney look like a bucket of smashed assholes.
Jesus, Steve.
You know what I'm saying? Well, that's all I had.
That's that is
wanted to let everybody know that. But,
important public service announcement.
carry on, and thank you.
I want to hear him 7 Johnny Walkers in. I have no problem with that. By the way, that's not a chat message, Alice. That's called on the ground reporting. True. And so my only question to you, Steve, is: are these locals that you're seeing? Because Dominican women are good looking. There's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. But are they locals? Because I kind of doubt if they're locals that they're hanging around in bikinis, or are these European tourists? So please find out and send pictures, please. Absolutely. Is this an Iberostar? Is this a nude beach? These are the things I need to know, Steve.
And are thongs still in?
Thong? Yeah, I was never a huge thong guy, Alice. You? Were you a thong guy?
No.
Did you ever wear one?
No.
Mm-hmm. Dear Andy, what would you wear? What would you wear for the massage?
What?
What would you wear for the massage? She scrambles to cheap fake. It was all cheap fakes.
I mean, I guess like my underwear, but also the blankets on the sheet. Is like on you.
Yeah, whatever.
The sheet is on you.
Just don't
Nobody
bother.
sees anything.
Don't bother. Nobody sees anything. I know. Nanny didn't see anything.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We appreciate your on-the-ground Christmas vacation reporting. We appreciate that. So feel free to call into the chat. We know a lot of you are out doing more fun things than calling into the chat, but we appreciate when you make the time. We will see you again tomorrow, and have a great night.